Hey, Thomas Mann said, solitude gives birth to the original in us, to beauty, unfamiliar, and perilous, but also gives birth to the opposite, to the perverse, the absurd, and the illicit. Hi, y'all. Thanks so much for joining me. Hey, in the next 15 minutes, guess what? I'm going to be talking about things that we can do as founders so that we don't dwell on the negatives of being lonely. Because if you pay attention to that quote from Thomas Mann, it's a mixture that you can get from, having that time when you're alone, right? But we don't want to be dwelling on the negatives of being alone. So please like and share this video if you get value from it. And if you're a founder, I would love to hear from you as well to see how you're dealing with loneliness. Hey, Nick, off topic. Thanks so much for joining. I'm Dr. P and I'm strategic business coach, and I work specifically with micro business owners, helping them scale their businesses through learning strategies to improve their goals, their processes, and operations. And I absolutely enjoy doing what I do. But you know what? There are days when that wonderful feeling that I had when I first decided to create my own company kind of turned into loneliness and a whole heap of other negative feelings, right? And I remembered so many days thinking that I was so alone and that there was nobody else out there that knew what I was going through as a founder. But what I failed to realize was that I could not have been so wrong about that situation, because I found out that you don't have to be lonely being a founder. And to be honest, it took me much longer than I'm willing to admit for me to figure that out. Because actually, what helped me was when one day I was randomly just reflecting on my experiences completing my doctorate, right? And then I remembered that there were a few people in my life at the point in time that even knew when I started working on my doctorate. And I decided to only tell a few people because here's a question I had in my head. I was like, what if I fail? So because I had that question in my head, I was like, yeah, I know I don't want to tell too many people because what if I fail? And I really thought it was a valid question and a valid reason not to tell many people, because I was working full time when I decided to go back to school full time and to complete my doctorate. So working during the day, doing my doctorate on evening and weekends. And after getting through my first year in the doctorate program is when I actually started to tell a few more other people, because I was like, okay, I think I could tell people that I can actually do this. And that question of what if I fail, it was still there, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't as strong as it was. So when I started telling people that what I was doing, it did make me feel a little bit better, that I had that support. And for me, that support was really, really important. And when you're going through something new and something really difficult, sometimes you don't always realize how much support you need just to help you get through those tough times. And as I was going through it, and like I said, when I started to tell people about the fact that I was doing it, it really helped me not to feel so alone. So first year completing my and doing my doctorate, I was like, okay, I could do this. But then this funny thing happened, started to transition to starting to actually do my dissertation. And I thought I was really good at writing. I used to tell people used to tell me how good my oral and written communication was, right? So I was like, yeah, this is great. I could do this. But it was as I started going through that revision process and getting the feedback from my dissertation committee that I started to think that I might need to sign up for a writing class, because the feedback I was getting was a little harsh the first time, and then it got harsher and harsher. So I was thinking, oh my gosh, what if I do fail? Now that I've told people about it, what if I fail at this? So I was like, oh my goodness, how am I going to get through this? And I really didn't tell even the people in my life who knew that I was going through the dissertation. Not all of them knew how bad that feedback was hitting me. But I got through it. Then I got to a point in the dissertation when you have to do the methodology of your study, right? That was another difficult phase. I did so much research that I knew that I had really identified the right research design for my study, the right methodology. But then when I got my feedback from my dissertation committee, apparently I was way off the mark by what they were telling me. And it, again, another hard hit. Like I thought going into this, okay, I did all my research, I got this, but I got that feedback and it hit me hard that my dissertation committee was telling me that no, you're not on the right track about the right design for this study. That you pretty much need to go back to the drawing board. And it was at that point in time that I started thinking, I am going to never complete my dissertation because my dissertation committee didn't seem as though they were remotely close to approving my proposal. So if I wasn't going to complete my dissertation, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to obtain my doctorate. And that was not sitting well with me, you know. And I remember thinking, hey, is there really anybody else out there that knows what I'm going through? Maybe not. Nobody else knows what I'm going through, because going through the dissertation process, there are happy moments, there are down moments, there are moments of so much frustration. Oh my gosh, the tears that come when you're going through this process, the feeling of wanting to give up. I mean, it's a whole roller coaster ride of different emotions that you go through when you're doing your dissertation. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, I feel so alone in this process, you know, because yes, there are people around me in my life and that are supporting me, but none of them had been through the dissertation process. So that's why I was like, oh my gosh, I guess I'm not going to be able to go to get my dissertation and get my doctorate, right? But I was so wrong about feeling alone because all the time that I was working on my dissertation, there was an entire community that I didn't even realize existed within my university online. And I only found out about it when I did some research online for the university when I wanted to get some help with my research proposal, because I was trying to figure out why my dissertation committee would not approve my proposal. So when I was doing this research and I found out about this community, I was like, what? I didn't even know that they existed. That is when I got connected with other doctoral students who were also working full time and going through similar roller coaster rides as what I was going through. And let me tell you, it felt so great to know that I was actually not alone. I went through about 2 years trying to figure out the dissertation journey by myself. And I didn't even realize that I didn't have to be alone. So by finding this community, guess what? I gained a network online with students from my current university where I was completing my doctorate, as well as social media groups that had in doctoral students from other universities doing dissertations in other fields. And with that, you know, with that online community support, we provided emotional support for each other, as well as resources and tips on how to overcome different challenges, because each one of us were at different parts in our journey. And even being at different parts in our journey, there were some things that some people went through early on, or that we're going through at that point in time, that we were able to utilize so that we could have overcome challenges that we were experiencing. So let me tell you, it felt so great to not be alone in that journey. So you might be wondering, B, I thought you were going to be talking about, you know, not being alone as a founder for a business. Like, what the hell does a dissertation have to do with, you know, being a founder in a business? And here's what I'm going to tell you. It has so much to do with it. It's part of my journey. And I realized that going through that process, I was ending up in a similar process where my business was concerned. So for me, the journeys are quite similar because you see, when I was completing my dissertation, I had to identify a problem that exists and that no one, you know, had found a solution to as yet. Then design a study that no one had designed before that will help me with answering a research question and solve the problem that I had identified. So through my dissertation journey, I had to do a lot of research. I had to develop ideas. I had to do planning. I had to revise those plans multiple times before conducting the research and analyzing the results. I mean, it was a lot of work before I even got to even do my study for it. So is that starting to sound a little bit closer to home now as a founder in a business? Because as a founder, what are we doing? we are creating and building businesses to provide a solution to a problem that exists. As founders, our solutions are novel because we are providing solutions in a way that nobody else in our industry is providing in that manner. So the problem for us becomes that we spend so much time alone as we develop, create, plan, implement, and revise those plans. We end up spending a lot of time by ourselves when we're going through those things. And then we get to a point when we convince ourselves that there's nobody else around us and there's no one else who knows what we're going through. Because when you're creating and planning, you can have your highs and you can have your lows, but it's that whole roller coaster ride that, because no one in our immediate support system might be going through, that we tend to then convince ourselves that there's nobody out there that knows what we're going through. But that is not the case. Just like how I remembered with going through my dissertation, it's the same process that I went through as a founder. I had to remind myself, I am not the first person founding a business, just like how I was not the first person doing a dissertation. And I couldn't have been the only person doing a dissertation. And I realized I'm not the only person starting and creating a new business. So I found some things to help me not be alone. And a lot of times, those resources can be around us geographically, or it could be in virtual land. So here's how we as founders can get that support so we don't have to feel like we are alone. And for me, when I found these activities, and I can tell you, I use them, they made a tremendous difference, is really what I should say, right? Going through these activities made such a tremendous difference in reducing those feelings of loneliness being a founder. So here are 3 things that I do, that I found out by doing some research online that other founders do as well to help with reducing those feelings of being lonely. The first one is research networking groups in your area. I'm talking about your geographical area. Do a quick search on Google for networking groups in your area for small business owners and specifically for founders. And when you do that search, depending on where you are, a whole ton of options might come up, or depending on where you are, a few options might come up. Hey, Lorenzo in the house, just talking about things we can do as founders to kind of beat off that feeling of being lonely. And Lorenzo, as being a musician, entertainer, singer, songwriter, you got those days sometimes when it feels like nobody else is around to help you. But we got to remember that we're not the only ones, right? So I just thought about the fact that we could do some quick research in our area, do a quick search on Google to see what networking groups are around for small business owners like ourselves, specifically founders. And make sure when you do find those groups, though, that you're not just joining a group for joining a group's sake. You're joining a group that is relevant to you. So you might be looking for a group that is connected to your industry or the specific problem that you are encountering, right? So the first one is research some networking groups in the area. The second one is look for social events for business owners. And here in the US, you can look on Eventbrite and Meetup. And depending on where you are, they might have a website online where you could look up the events that are going on in your area, right? And specifically for small business owners. Because in the US, you got Eventbrite and Meetup, and they have directories of different events that are going on in your local area. And you get to not only find those events, but you can go through and see which ones can be for people new to the city, if you're new to the city where you are right now, or for people who have a startup that's less than 2 years or less than 5 years. Point is, you are going to find so many different events on there that can help you connect with other founders who could be in similar situations to yourself. And a bonus to those events is you can go to those events and you might actually end up meeting an investor or a co-founder or a partner. So, the opportunities are endless when you go to these events. So the third one I wanted to share was join a social media group for founders. Because if you spend a lot of time on Facebook and on LinkedIn and you're scrolling through and looking at other people's posts, try to add some intentional networking to your time that you're spending on social media. And with that, this is what I mean. If you're on Facebook and LinkedIn a lot, look at the groups that you are members of. Are you being active in those groups? And if you're not, research on Facebook and on LinkedIn for groups that could be for founders in your area, small business owners in your area, or maybe not in your area, but only for small business owners on a whole. It doesn't have to necessarily be limited to your area, because you might want to join a social media group with people in other parts of the US, other parts of your specific state, or other parts of the world, depending on what you're looking for in your networking group. And when you join those groups, remember to actually be active in the group. Don't just join the group to sit back and watch, because you are a founder of a company that you're building, that you want to grow. You want to make sure you're active, you're contributing, as well as taking information from the group, but you're also sharing information with the group. So whether you are joining a local networking group, attending networking events in your area, or joining a social media group for founders, when you make connections the right way, you are likely to gain referral partners and maybe even customers and clients. And I can tell you from my own experiences, that's what has happened for me when I decided to stop being alone and going out there and joining networking groups and actually attending networking events that are specifically geared for founders. I've been able to expand my referral network and even gain customers and clients, along the way. So these are just some added bonuses on top of getting the support, the tips, and encouragement from other founders. So here's what I want to leave you with. Don't fall victim to the negatives of being alone as a founder, right? Because like Thomas Mann said in his quote, they're positive of being a founder and being alone. You can become so creative, have such original ideas, but there are also some drawbacks when you are alone all the time, and those negative feelings creep in. So the founder life does not have to be a lonely life, y'all. There are ways that you can connect with other founders and continue to build the business of your dreams, y'all. I'm Dr. P, the founder and owner of Priscilla Kuser Consulting Solutions. And I'm here to tell you, solutions plus actions equals results. Thank y'all so much for joining me. Bye.